Hey babes, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Brandy. I am the host of the Be Real Babe show, a spinoff of the Be Real Babe podcast. And today, you guys, I have two follow-up articles to bring you today on two topics that I talked about 5-6 months ago. And actually two of the most listened to YouTubes that I have put out in the last season. One was about the woman that was found in brutal condition in Dubai after people had alleged that she was at a Porta Potty Party. Always hard to say that. And then I was thrown down that rabbit hole. And then after that as well, we have a follow up from an absolute disgusting, vile woman coming in from the States. Someone that I had also talked about at one of the beginning 6 months ago when I aired this show. And it was about a substitute teacher and her arrest with group sex with middle-aged schoolboys, and that has blown the fuck up since. So I thought we could revisit both of those stories. So if you're interested in listening to that, stick around and we'll jump right in. Okay, babe. So as I mentioned, I have two stories today. The last two episodes, last Wednesday and the Wednesday before, when I launched the second season of being on YouTube talking about internet insanity, were both about different Kendras in very crazy situations, but both very different situations, but that blew up over social media in the summer. And then these two today, I thought I would take some time and go back to some of the most watched episodes that I had published on YouTube 6 months ago, and these two stories came up, and I actually had someone reach out asking if there was a follow-up to this story here, the one in Dubai. So I thought we could start there, and I found got some notes here that we can go over to bring you back, and this will kind of catch you up if you haven't watched. It's this episode right here. Like I said, it was the most watched episode that I've had on YouTube so far for this series, and it was kind of insane. Some of the comments, I'm not gonna lie, were a little bit harsh, but I mean, everyone's allowed their own opinion, free speech and all that kind of stuff. But hopefully this will clear up some questions that people might have had in the past about this, and just to get you guys caught up. So a woman left in coma after Dubai Porta Potty Party shares first thing she remembers after the attack. So this was published in July, so a little bit behind, but it's the newest update I could find. Maria Kolbachuk, a model from Ukraine, is now using a wheelchair after she was found severely injured in Dubai. A woman who was suspected to have attended a Dubai Porta Potty Party after being found severely injured on the side of the road has revealed the first thing she saw once she regained consciousness. Maria Kolbachuk, a Ukrainian model, traveled to Dubai to create content back in March, but had overslept and missed her connecting flight to Thailand. As a result, the 20-year-old met a man she had recognized from a karaoke bar in the lobby of the 5 Jermaya Village Hotel. Sorry if I butchered that. She said the individual promised to fly her out to Thailand on his dad's private jet and also invited her to his room. After accepting his offer, the man was said to have thrown a party with the children of wealthy Russian and Ukrainian businessmen where things took a dark turn. The group started to physically abuse her after she refused to drink, as Maria claims her passport and dress were also stolen. In a hotel robe, she temporarily managed to escape and hide in a construction site before she was found and allegedly beaten. Maria fell into a coma after reportedly falling from a height, suffering a fractured spine, and is now using a wheelchair and crutches to get about. She doesn't remember the violence that led to her injuries, but claims the CCTV footage has now been erased. On the first thing she saw after the attack, Maria speculated to journalist Ksenia Sobachak, at Osteros.media, most likely there was a blow to the head, I suppose. The next scene that I remember is me asking for help from a passing car, which had already stopped and called an ambulance and the police. She added, I think that maybe I was thrown or it was a beating, one of the two options. The injuries looked like either a beating or a fall. The model has now moved in with her mom, Anna, in Norway while she recovers. Anna said Dubai authorities quite possibly paid millions for her daughter's treatment. The next day, the case was closed. The men were released, the mom said. The Dubai porta potty parties are causing a lot of concern, as it's being reported that wealthy men are luring vulnerable women to their events, promising luxuries, and end up degrading these women instead. While there were initial concerns this is what had happened to Maria, it now does not sound like this was the case. And that's what was alleging when I originally talked about this story. That's what kicked me down this rabbit hole of people that were, I mean, again, as I said into that episode, it was off of Reddit, so you have to take that with a grain of salt. But I also am never just going to tell people their experience didn't happen. And that's what had kicked me down the hole that this could even happen. It's not necessarily even that it's a Dubai thing, just that people would do this. And I guess your girl's very vanilla because I'm not a part of those worlds. So that kind of blew my mind. But looks like here she's debunking, saying that actually has nothing to do with it. And from what it sounds, it doesn't sound like it was any locals. It sounds like that they were maybe tourists or people that were visiting or maybe currently live there, but that weren't necessarily born and raised there, from what it sounds like. I mostly use a wheelchair and crutches. I still have a leg fracture that's healing, Maria said. I'm learning to walk with crutches again, but for now, the wheelchair is my main means of moving around. So there we have it. There's a follow-up on the story. It sounds like she's recovering. I mean, doesn't sound like she's able to do much yet, but compared to the state she was left in, like she said, whether she was brutally beaten that way or if she had fallen or being pushed or something like that, either way, poor girl. Does not sound like that was a good time at all. And it sounds like the stories that had been speculating about that were not true. And so that's good that she's coming out and sharing that. It's unfortunate that those that did it were not held accountable for a long time. I have no idea what the laws are like or what actually happened. It wasn't there. This is just all alleged. But at least it sounds like she is making a recovery, and hopefully she can make a full recovery one day. And hopefully these things aren't permanent. I'm always wishing for situations like this for there's at least to be some healing in the end, and this is something she's going to have to be in for the rest of her life. But yeah, so there's a catch up to that story. I do recall a lot of people having comments because of her career choice, saying that she deserved it and she was putting herself in shitty positions, and I just don't, I'm not in that camp. I can understand where people are coming from, but I just don't think that anybody truly thinks these things could happen. And it doesn't sound like she was going through like the sexual route or booking anything like that. It just sounds like maybe because she's young too, maybe she's just naive a little bit and got taken advantage of. At the same time, I don't know the conversations, but just me personally, ladies, just don't trust that. Just don't trust that. Just rebook do your own thing. Like, just better be safe than sorry, right? That's kind of how I see it. So now let's go into this absolutely disgusting second follow-up on a story that I covered again at the beginning of launching the internet insanity, and I thought we would catch up on that. So this one was about a substitute teacher now is facing 50 criminal charges for group sex with middle school boys in Morgan County. I have watched quite a few videos on this, and it just makes me sick to my stomach. I'm going to go through this article though just to make sure I'm capturing everything correct, but definitely think if you're going to look for a deeper dive, going to Law and Order, their sidebar, they have really good video on this. Not good, this is disgusting, but you know what I'm saying. So Morgan County prosecutors have filed additional charges against the ex-substitute teacher who allegedly had group sex with teenage boys as young as 13 years old. Brittany Fortenberry of Martinsville was charged with additional counts of sexual misconduct with a minor, dissemination of material harmful to minors, and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. That brings a total of charges filed against Fortenberry up to 47, including 14 counts of sexual misconduct with a minor. So when I talked about this about 5-6 months ago, she had already gone through the first round, and actually it was a second round of people coming forward about what had happened. Once things got out, more boys came forward, and since then even more have come out. And I believe at the end of the last segment that I talked about, I wasn't really talking about the husband. It wasn't really something I was thinking about. We'll dive more into that today, but let's continue on here because I honestly thought this was case closed and done. Gross, disgusting. No. New victim come forward. The new charges come after another teen boy came forward to his parents and police about Fortenberry's alleged misconduct. According to the new court documents, the boy said at first Fortenberry would just have him over to do drugs and hang out. He told police that she would compliment him on his appearance and told him his strength while doing chores. According to the boy, Fortenberry started touching him more, and in one night they started having sex in her garage. Afterward, he said Fortenberry went to bed with her husband and he slept in the kids' room. The boy told police Fortenberry would give him and other boys drugs to try and buy them gifts. He said he stopped coming over when he realized Fortenberry was having sex with a lot of other teenage boys. allegedly in other articles I read that they were saying that there was something going on possibly with the adopted son that was completely alleged. I haven't seen anything else confirming that, but there was speculation that perhaps something was not great with that. So that's disgusting. And then on top of that, I also heard that her husband, perhaps allegedly, I don't know, may have known about this and perhaps might have threatened these children with their lives. So that's terrifying. But that's all alleged. I couldn't find anything that said that for sure in court yet, but again, I can only find so much. After Fort Barry's initial arrest, the Department of Child Services reached out to parents of other potential victims, leading to a dozen more charges being filed. Brittany did not say anything as deputies led her into the Morgan County Courthouse for initial hearing on April 3rd, which is what we talked about last time. I realized that this case had received a great deal of publicity, but the focus is and will remain on the victims and the defendant's right to a fair trial, said Michelle Armstrong, Morgan County's deputy prosecutor. According to the court documents, one of the victims, a middle school boy, accused Brittany of drugging him repeatedly and having sex with him when he was 13. He said Brittany would have him bring his friends to her house where she would allegedly give the teens drugs and have sex with them. One of the victims told police that Brittany would put her children to bed and then try to have sex with the boys. In another incident, a victim said that Brittany reached out to him after she had been arrested in a separate misconduct investigation. She allegedly spent $600 on a group of teens for various purchases and then had sex with all of them while making them wear the mask from the movie Scream. Brittany allegedly told the teens if they reported anything, she would kill herself. So that's something that I've read a few times in this and a couple articles and watching some of the videos, is that not only allegedly her husband had threatened them, she was also threatening to kill herself. And then I also read another article stating that she said one of the reasons why she was doing this was because of weight loss, that she was finding confidence in that. There was also allegations made allegedly that she would do these acts with her children still in the same room and if they're not in very close proximity. So there's that. Brittany allegedly had sex with one of the teens she had asked to babysit her children, also exchanging sexual favors to get things for other teens. Another student said Brittany was paying teen boys between $100 to $800 for photos of their genitals. And apparently this all happened mostly on Snapchat and another program I've never heard of before, so I can't remember the name. I think Snapchat should just go away. One of the boys told police that if the boys said they didn't want to have sex with Brittany, she would make them while saying, just let it happen. In a completely separate case, Brittany faces charges for allegedly sending sexual messages and videos to 17 and 18-year-old boys who served as her teacher assistants in Eminence School at the start of the school year. All of these teens said Brittany would send them nude and explicit photos and videos on Snapchat and an app called Session. There it is. The parents of many victims did not know any of this was wrong. The parents of many of the victims did not know anything was wrong until they were contacted by DCS. It's not uncommon at all to see allegations of sexual abuse involving people in authority positions, said Kristina Korobov, a senior attorney for the Zero Abuse Project. There is nothing sexual about what happens to these kids. It's a violation and an exploitation. And honestly, even on the show alone, I think we at the beginning before I dove into Diddy for what felt like a fucking century, those are the stories that I had mainly brought, is like, unfortunately, it seems to be happening with teachers quite a bit. And I don't know why, and I'm sure that's happened, but the stories that kept coming to me and flooding my feed were teachers and this substitute teacher as well. So that bothers me so much. Korobov said while exploitation cases are not uncommon, it is rare for cases with male victims to be reported. The more we continue to send the message that this isn't some consensual act that got out of hand, but to treat it with the respect these allegations deserve. I think the more you see kids and their parents feeling comfortable to come forward and talk about what happened. And I completely agree. And I will also say that's something that I feel like I totally agree. And I feel like that's something that I've talked about on the show before, that one thing that bothers me so much is how it's so downplayed when it's a male victim. And I'm not saying that one is worse than the other. I'm just saying it's both terrible because you have no idea. Again, like anything that happens to either gender, either kid is going to fuck them up for the rest of their life and really mess up their idea of intimacy. And I just don't believe when people say in the comments, oh, if it's a boy, he wanted it. Like, I just absolutely not. I think that discredits so many of the victims. I absolutely hate that narrative. And this is another one where it's like, how many female predators are going to be exposed here until we realize that it's like, it's these women, there's men and boys in these compromising situations as well. On May 7th, her lawyers filed a notice of mental illness or defect. They are asking the court to appoint 2 to 3 psychologists or psychiatrists to assess Fortenberry's mental competence. Girl, no. There, you should, again, no, you're a disgusting pedophile. Period. But period. There's not that. Yeah, you're mentally fucked up, but you don't get to hide behind a diagnosis. I'm sorry. According to the filing, counsel has a good faith belief that the defendant likely suffers from a mental disease or defect, but lacks the expertise to proffer whether the defendant appreciated the wrongfulness of her conduct at the time of the offense. Such opinion must come from qualified experts. Okay, well, that is definitely not me. But again, like, I'll be interested to see, and I'll follow up and probably look a little bit deeper into the husband in that kind of case, because again, I'm kind of curious a little bit, like, how does this happen in your house when you don't know? So I find that would be kind of hard, especially with as many, and where all that money, like, where's all that money going? Who has all this money? Where's all this money coming from? I'm so confused. And like, I'm glad obviously she's not working and she's obviously in jail and all that, but like, when do the allegations end? I'd just be so curious, because this is left like 5 or 6 months ago, and here we are again, now up to like 47 between 50 counts. That's insane. Anyways, so there's a follow-up to that story I didn't expect. But if you guys made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for sticking around. If you haven't watched the last 2 weeks of Internet Insanity, the first week that I launched here back in September, it was about the unknown number, the high school catfish, where it was all about Kendra, the mom, tormenting her daughter. So if you want to watch that, go back to that episode. And then second was about the phenomenon of Kendra falling in love with her psychiatrist that blew up on social media over the summer. And then this episode following up with 2 more stories. And next week, I'm going to come to you with a new story. And don't forget, Keeping Up with Canada on Mondays if you're interested in what's going on in this country. Some news stories to keep you guys informed of what's going on. And Fridays, I launch the podcast with amazing guests and have amazing interviews on Apple, Rumble, Spotify every Friday. If you want to find me on social media, you can find me on TikTok and Instagram at the Be Real Babe. Thank you guys so much for listening to this point, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Until next time, bye.